Hey familia, ¿cómo están? I hope you are all safe and well and managing as best you can in these trying times. I'm Luis Poza. I'm an assistant professor in the Lurie College of Education, specifically in teacher education. And I'm sorry that we can't be doing this face to face. I really wish we could be having this workshop in person, but I hope that it is nonetheless useful for you. I'm going to be sharing with you some insights about identifying the right graduate school programs for you. So I want to say that even though I'm facilitating this workshop, I do need to acknowledge Dr. Magdalena Barrera, who put together most of the slides for this. And I also want to thank Lily and Elisa at El Centro for making sure that we're sustaining programming for you all and for all that they're doing in these times as well. So I want you to know that I come to this from having been in your shoes. So I finished college and I went into teaching. Even this was kind of its own journey. I had kind of more of an environmental science background, but I realized that I really cared about education. But even in teaching at two different schools, I realized that there were all kinds of injustices that I didn't feel equipped to handle at the classroom level, at the teacher level. So I went back and I got my PhD in education, studying the ways that race and language interact in school environments to shape injustice, right? And so it was really important that my experiences, my curiosity, and my interest were what was driving my pursuit of graduate school. And that's the first really important thing to keep in mind, right? Is that in choosing a program for yourself, the important question is, what do you want to do, right? So keep in mind that a graduate degree is just something that enables you to do something else, right? It should not be an end in itself, right? Think about what careers, what jobs you want, right? That might require certain advanced schooling. Or maybe think about an area of study that you are really passionate about and you want to become just a deep expert in that area of study, right? That might be the case for doctoral work, right? If you want to become a professor in that subject area, right? Those should be the kinds of motivations you have for graduate school, not just so that you can have some letters after your name, right? And then work backwards from that goal, right? Which degree option is the right one for what you want to do? There are lots of different graduate programs, right? So at the master's level, there are certainly Masters of Arts, and these are in different disciplines like sociology, anthropology, psychology, right? There's Masters of Sciences, and these are not only in the quote unquote hard sciences like chemistry and biology, right? There are Masters of Sciences in psychology and statistics and things like that. An M.F.A is a Master's of Fine Arts, and that is a terminal degree. That means it's the highest degree you can have in that field, and it's related to artistic production and performance. An MBA is a Master's in Business Administration, so those interested in entrepreneurship and executive positions, right? That might be a degree that's of interest to you. A Master's in Public Administration, if you want to go into government and policymaking, could be an option. A Master's in Public Health, if you care about medicine, but you care about it from the community lens, right? That's an option. Juris Doctor is a law degree, right? So going to law school, Doctor of Medicine, right? MD. And then, of course, there are different doctoral degrees, which are for deep expertise in sort of an academic discipline. The PhD is a Doctor of Philosophy, right? But it's Doctor of Philosophy in whatever discipline. And then an EdD is the educational doctorate, right? So specifically for people who want a doctorate in education and schooling contexts. Now, with all those options, it's really important that you reflect then on which one is going to serve you well, right? So think back again to which kind of career you want, which kind of knowledge and expertise you want, and try to find the programs that match those interests. Not just the kind of degree, but then once you're choosing the degree, which institution, which faculty are going to be the ones that are going to help you get the most out of your schooling experience. One way to start is to talk to folks already in your field, right? Talk to your professors, talk to career mentors, right? So look for programs who have faculty who are in your areas of interest, right? Which programs are known for producing interesting cutting edge work, right? Who are you reading? Whose scholarship are you reading in your classes? Right? What programs have a reputation for supporting students? So if you see that a lot of students are graduating and being successful from certain programs, right? And then again, so scholars whose work you admire, where did they train or where are they currently serving on the faculty? Once you've started to narrow down some programs, start looking a little more in depth into sort of your finalists, right? And it's always a good idea to have a pretty broad list, right? So look at the information that they offer about themselves. So look at their website, right? Look at the kinds of classes they offer, the degree pathways they offer, how long it takes, how much it costs, who is on the faculty. This is especially important if you're thinking about doctoral programs, because in a doctoral program, you're going to have to work really tightly with one primary advisor and then a handful of people. And on your dissertation committee, you're going to have a really strong ongoing relationship. So think about someone who you could imagine yourself working with for several years really tightly. If you're in the hard sciences, whose lab is doing the kind of work that interests you, right? So look for that kind of research online. Go ahead and check out their social media, right? What kinds of values and messaging is the institution putting out about itself, right? What kinds of events and announcements are they sharing? And then if possible, visit the campus, meet some of the people there, check out a class, right? Just try to get a feel for the culture of the program and see what it's like. If you can, try to talk to some current students in the program, right? What kinds of experiences are they having? Right? And then always be sure to check in with your mentors to talk about the information you're collecting, right? Maybe they're having some different experiences, or they can put you in touch with other people, right? To make sure that you're getting a broad perspective, right? And then also start thinking about a plan to apply, right? And so one of the materials that is accompanying this little webinar is a timeline and sort of step management system to help you think through all the different pieces of an application, right? So there's usually essays, there's tests to be taken, there's fees to be paid, there's letters of references to collect, things like that. There are 8 important questions to keep in mind as you go through this process, right? First, what is the admissions process like, and how big is that incoming cohort, right? So what does it take to get in, right? How many people get in? How competitive, right? If this is the program I really like, how many other programs should I also be looking at applying to, things like that. A second major piece of graduate school is that it can be really expensive, right? So always ask about funding. Is there any funding for graduate students? Most programs won't offer grants and fellowships at the master's level. Some will, but for the most part, it'll be loans and financial aid. But a lot of doctoral programs will fully fund you, right? And by doctoral, I mean PhD, right? Med doctoral, no. That's all through loans usually. But what kinds of packages do students get? Is it a uniform funding package for different students, or do your circumstances entitle you to different kinds of packages? Right. Third, what is the average length of time students stay in the program? Apologies for that typo. Right. So keep in mind that while you're in school, right, you may not be able to work. Right. A lot of programs require you to be enrolled full time. Certainly not all of them, and that'll be another consideration that you want to keep in mind as you look at programs, right? But so how long are you willing to be taking these classes, be out of the workforce, or be only partially in the workforce, right? And know that graduate school is an investment in yourself, right? But also know that you do want to be measured about the time that you're in school. You don't want to be a permanent student, right? Fourth, ask yourself, what do students go on to do, right? What kinds of careers do they have? If it's a PhD program and you want to be a professor, is this a program that routinely puts people into professor tracks, right? If it's an arts program and you want to go on to performance, do a lot of their graduates go on to have performing careers, right, and production careers? If you want to go to law school and you want to do public interest law, do most of the people graduating there end up with public interest civil rights law, immigration law, things like that, do they end up in those kinds of outfits, or do they end up having to do private practice, right? Or if you want to do private practice, is it a law school that provides the kinds of classes that would prepare you to manage your own firm, right? That kind of thing. Consider if the school offers any formal mentoring, right? Would you be paired with faculty or with more senior colleagues, right, peers who could help guide you through graduate school, right? Getting in is just step one, right? Then you have to thrive while you're there, right? So mentoring can be really important. Does the institution have a place like El Centro at San Jose State that can be that kind of networking space, mentoring space? What kind of scholarly community does the program offer, right? Are there research and writing groups for graduate students? This is especially true at the doctoral level, right? But even at the master's level, maybe there's writing groups or research groups where you all can come together and kind of study together and share your thoughts together, workshop papers together, that sort of thing. What kinds of labs are people assigned to or given the choice of joining, that sort of thing. Okay. Does the campus offer support services for graduate students? Right. A lot of universities invest very heavily in their undergraduate population and not as much in their graduate students. Right. So consider what kinds of resources are there for you. Is there a writing center? Is there tutoring? What kinds of services can you access as a graduate student? Okay. And then what is the environment like? At the institutions that you're considering, right? Do folks tend to live on or off campus? What is life like in this community? Now, as you think through all those different options, you'll also want to consider finding mentors, right? So again, this is especially true if you're in a discipline where you're going to do some deep dive research with faculty, right? Consider the different kinds of faculty at their career stages. So junior faculty, pre-tenure, might be closer to you in age. They might be more relatable, right? But they're also going to be really busy and really stressed out about getting tenure, right? So you'll have to weigh that balance. Tenured faculty, right, will be a little more established, a little more familiar. They can be a little more intimidating because they've been there longer, right? And they've made a name for themselves, right? But they can provide a good balance of seniority, right, and familiarity with the institution. Faculty at the end of the career might be really accomplished, right? They may be the biggest names in your field, right? So you could certainly learn a lot from them. But because they're near the end of their career, they may be doing a lot of talks. They may be, very high. Their time is very highly in demand, right? Their career may have also shifted directions because they've been in the field for so long, right? So what they've worked on in the past that really drew you to them may not be what they're working on now. So that's also something to consider, right? Especially senior faculty may not be taking on new advisees because they're getting ready to retire. But also some junior faculty have a very hard limit on how many advisees they can take as a way of kind of protecting them to make sure they do get that tenure. Again, consider, that superstars may be spread very thin, right? And then also, don't just go by folks who are like you racially, ethnically, linguistically, right? A good mentor is someone who's going to make time for you, someone who's going to listen to you, someone who's going to be invested in your success, right? And that's not inherent to any ethnicity or racial group. Once you've identified some faculty that you'd really like to work with and approach, go ahead and send them a short and professional email. Tell them a little bit about yourself, what you studied, where you're coming from, right? And talk about why they would be an appealing mentor for you, right? What draws you to their work? See if you can schedule a time to meet quickly in person or over the phone, just to talk about your own interests in the program and about the possibility for you to work with them going forward. Of course, it's intimidating to reach out to faculty, right? But just know that faculty are there to serve students, right? And in many cases, faculty are really grateful to take on interested graduate students because you can help them with their research, you can help them TA their classes, things like that. So when faculty have great graduate students who can be great mentees, right, it's a pleasure to mentor them. So in that conversation with those faculty, ask them what their current research interests are, whether or not they're taking new advisees. Ask what they think makes for a successful applicant to your program, or if you've already gotten into the program, what makes for a successful student within it, right? And what do you see as the biggest strengths of the program that they teach in, right, or that they research in? Right? Are they areas where certain students struggle, and why that might be, right? To try to head off any potential challenges. There are just some other big picture considerations to keep in mind, right? First is to make sure your timeline is realistic. Give the process plenty of time. There's usually tests to take, like the GRE, right? Or the MCATs if you're going to medical school, the LSAT if you're going to law school, right? You may want to take it more than once, depending on your score. It takes time if you're looking at a number of different institutions. Right? So give yourself lots of time. Start planning ahead. Get organized. So again, use that spreadsheet that I'm going to send along with this document, or if that's a little too overwhelming, you can make one of your own that keeps track of just really essential information, right? But keep track of the notes that you're taking on the different programs, different faculty, different factors like funding and all that. Make sure you apply to multiple schools, right? No school is a sure thing. You want to have options. Also, if you get admitted to multiple programs and one is offering you more funding than another, you can actually leverage your offers, right? So you can say, I really like your program, but this other program is offering me more money to go there, right? And sometimes universities, when they compete for attractive graduate students, will try to compete with each other by offering better funding packages, right? Also, make sure you're open to leaving California. For example, did you know the Erasmus Mundus master's programs in Europe, in the EU, are fully funded? So they will pay all your tuition and they'll give you a room and board stipend, right? And it lets you study at various prestigious institutions within the EU, right? So they're usually 2-year master's programs that have you at 2 to 3 different institutions throughout the EU. Now, I realize that international travel is not a privilege that all of us have, right? But for those of us who can, certainly consider that option, right? And even if international travel is not within your scope, consider that out-of-state institutions may have the best programs in the subjects you're interested in, right? So, be open to broadening your horizons in that scope. Right? And don't forget, right? Graduate schools want you too. You have a vision. You have your own unique strengths that come from your experiences and your successes, right? So certainly they're checking you out, right? They're weighing you against their admission criteria and all that, but you're also checking them out. You want to make sure that it's the right fit for you, right? Even if an institution is prestigious, if it doesn't have faculty who are going to support you, if it doesn't have programs in the area that you're interested in, right? That's probably not the best fit for you. If it's not the kind of social environment where you're going to thrive, right, it may not be a good fit. It's also your chance to be selective, right? How can that institution help you get down the path that you've identified for yourself? And it was canceled for this year because of the pandemic, of course. But keep an eye out for the California Forum for Diversity in Higher Education. It's caldiversityforum.org. So they have annual events where you can get information about different graduate programs in the Bay Area. You can meet graduate students and graduate school representatives from different California institutions, right, and learn about what it takes to thrive academically and socially in graduate school. All right. So just to recap, right? First, keep in mind why graduate school? What do I really want or need to study to get to the career that I have in mind, right? And then what degrees or certifications do I want or need, right? Maybe it's not even an MA or an MS, right? Maybe you just need a certification, like to go into education. to teaching, right? Then once you've narrowed that down, which graduate school, right? Which specific programs are you interested in? Which faculty and facilities will best support you? What region do you want to live in during and after school, right? It's probably easier to find work in the area near the school where you attended, unless it's a very prestigious institution that has national recognition, right? How attainable are admissions and financing, right? How realistic is it that you'll get admitted and that you'll be able to pay the tuition, the room and board, and all that without taking on excessively burdensome loans? But again, don't be afraid of loans, right? This is an investment in yourself. Okay? And then how do I apply, right? Once you've chosen the specific schools that are going to be your targets, right? Think about what materials are required, what testing, what the deadlines are for submitting everything. Find out who can write the letters of reference that you'll need, who can review your statements or writing samples that you have to submit as part of your application, what fees or fee waivers do you need to take care of, right? And again, there's some planning materials included in the online distribution or email of this webinar. Right. I am happy to continue this discussion with you. Please follow up anytime. You can email me, luis.poza@sjsu.edu, or you can book a virtual appointment at poza.sjsu.youcanbook.me. Right? Thank you so much for your time and good luck.